Hello and welcome. My name is Herminda Ray and I will be your host for this TLC session. We are excited that you have joined us today for Cognitive, Social, and Teaching Presence, Purpose and Applications within the Online Classroom and Beyond. Please welcome Dr. Stephanie Anderson, Dr. Christy McMahon, Dr. Sandra Rebeor, Dr. Michelle Rosser-Majors.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us during today's TLC presentation. Garrison, Anderson, and Archer define presence as the ability to project themselves socially and effectively into a community of inquiry. In 2007, Garrison suggests that this community of inquiry framework has provided significant insights and methodological solutions for studying online learning. As the title of our presentation highlights, presence entails three types: cognitive, social, and teaching presence. COHHSS aligned instructors were able to further examine each of these three types of presence via 7 self-paced modules. While today's presentation evaluates the purpose and content of this initiative and focuses on working with students, please don't forget that the key concepts from today's presentation can also be applied beyond the classroom when working with faculty and staff.
Good morning and afternoon, colleagues. So we'd like to quickly have your thoughts, because often what we define as instructor presence can be misinterpreted, or we think we know what that means. So as participants, we would love for you to chat in the chat box for us and tell us first what you believe social presence would be. And we'll just take 2 or 3 here. Or maybe this is new to everyone. Interacting with our learners, good. So as we wait on that, I want to go into that just a hair deeper before we go into cognitive, because that is actually what most people believe presence is that interacting with our learners. And what we're going to learn about today is that social, cognitive, and teaching presence are 3 different components of interactions, and they each have their place to make it successful. So any specific ideas out there in the room about cognitive or teaching presence and what those might specifically mean? Social presence, building rapport, exactly, yes. How about cognitive or teaching? Any ideas? Pretty excited if this is new for many of you. This will be fun. We've been focusing for quite some time in the College of Health on this subject, so we're excited to be sharing with you. So as we get into it, my colleagues are going to be further elaborating on each of these areas, but just to give you a little bit of touch, let's see, Maureen says cognitive is more about providing challenges to their critical thinking. Absolutely. What's interesting is social presence is about building trust, creating that relationship with our students that lets them feel like they can be safe and be more cognitively effective. And cognitive presence, actually, we'll find out, is a two-way street. It has to go from the students as well as from the instructor. But again, we have to have that trust to get there. And teaching presence is kind of those basic things that we're supposed to be doing in the classroom that help support all these things. So next slide, please. So very quickly, as Sandra mentioned, the idea of instructional presence, the way we've perceived it, comes from the community of inquiry by Garrison and his colleagues. So as we discuss what they are, it's also important to discuss why. What we've found reading the research and really advancing our understanding of it is that, number one, it can improve our retention and success. It increases satisfaction not only from the students' perspectives, but also the instructors' perspectives. It can improve our students' persistence. It increases the perceptions of the instructor's psychological support, so the students feel like that instructor is really there for them personally and not just a computer screen. It actually can increase the feelings of belonging because, as noted by Lieberman in 2013, although many of us can be introverted as well as extroverted, we all desire that human connection, and that's extremely important also within our online classrooms. So each of these areas will be explained more in depth by my colleagues to help each of you be able to apply that better.
All right, thank you, Michelle. So let's take a deeper look at social presence and what does that mean? Okay, so what does it mean to be socially present? So several of you talked about a few things about building rapport with your students, interacting your students, and that's exactly what it is. Part of that is social presence is about building that supportive learning community. It's allowing students to feel that they are in a trusted environment and really helping them to establish social relationships, whether that's with you as an instructor or other students within the classroom. And a big part of being socially present is engagement. So we definitely have to be able to support our students to be engaged in the classroom, whether that's with you, with the actual course content, or with each other. And so when you help your students become engaged, that really helps them to create a sense of belonging within the online learning environment. In addition to that, social presence requires a welcoming setting. So how can you welcome your students into the classroom to help them begin being able to allow them to express themselves and to encourage collaboration? A few things you can do there are send out a welcoming email to each of your students, use those announcements to welcome them each week, and really promote that collaboration between yourself and in the classroom. So what are our goals of social presence? The main goal, be real with your students. Let them know who you are. Help develop a perception of community. And so when you are actively engaged and you promote engagement in the classroom, you are developing a community. You are letting your students know that you are there for them. They can begin to trust you. And along with developing trust, begin to project yourself as a real person. Within my classes, I let my students know that I am real. I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a sister, I am a daughter. I try to share personal little tidbits with my students to let them know I am here. And yes, I am very similar to you, so then they can connect with me and begin to trust me as an instructor. And this is very important to help to create a healthy and productive learning environment. So why is social presence so important? Well, very firstly, it helps to reduce feelings of isolation. When you are developing that community, students know that they are not the only ones there, that you are there for them. Classmates are there for them. And when you develop that community, they want to come back for more, and therefore that helps to improve retention rates. If they're in the classroom more and they're learning more, then that leads to number 3. It helps to improve academic performance. And as a final result, it also helps to increase self-efficacy. So what can you do to increase your social presence within the classroom? Begin to use video and audio. Produce your feedback by using such tools such as Screencast-O-Matic. You can use Vokies or other animations. Let your students see you as a person. Let them hear your voice. So really begin to integrate these other tools within the classroom. A few other things that I like to do, I try to use humor. Within my weekly announcements, I might post a cartoon such as this if it relates to the course content. I also like to include motivational quotes. Tell them to keep going. Encourage them. Let them know that they can do it. And also I like to include introductory videos. This can be posted in the introduction or as an announcement or just to say hello. I tell them about myself, my family, my background, where I come from, some of my hobbies. That will help them relate to me and connect with me and really start to build trust. And a few other things that you can do, start thinking out of the box. Ask them to join your LinkedIn account. Schedule a Zoom meeting or a Skype meeting. Develop a Twitter page, or even ask them to join your college's Facebook page if you have one. So start thinking out of the box. There are a lot of great ways that you can include social presence in your classroom.
Thank you, Christine. Cognitive presence is the extent to which participants in any particular configuration of a community of inquiry are able to construct meaning through sustained communication. So today we will consider 3 key factors contributing to the construction of meaning in the classroom: the development of trust, which Christine mentioned, the presentation of content, and the dissemination of feedback. Each of these factors facilitate and are maintained by a community of inquiry requiring both give and take from instructor and student. Next slide, please. In order to promote a community of inquiry, the instructor must create an environment that fosters intellectual curiosity, critical thinking, and creativity, encouraging students to explore and participate. Students must reciprocate by engaging with the environment and available resources. Although both parties are responsible for this process, the instructor must initiate it by taking steps to facilitate cognitive presence. This process begins with trust, a necessary ingredient motivating students to dig deeper into the material. Social presence contributes to this condition. Capitalizing upon this trust, instructors can share engaging content and feedback that help learners make sense of the material and motivate them to seek additional insight. With regard to content, instructors should strive to present knowledge and ideas in a manner that motivates students to explore associated resources. In addition, instructors should assist students as they integrate key concepts from the material into their own lives. With regard to feedback, instructors should always keep in mind the goal, which is to spark interest in the topic, motivating students to explore, ask questions, and discuss, leading them to construct knowledge through discourse. Above all, we want students to think critically, not only demonstrating their knowledge, but also drawing conclusions and applying insight to new areas. Next slide, please. Instructors can take the following steps to facilitate cognitive presence in the classroom. Encourage thought and reflection by asking appropriately challenging questions. Ensure understanding, providing clarification and additional resources as needed to help students master content. Share relevant knowledge, both personal and professional. Confirm meeting of outcomes at both course and program levels. Encourage integration of existing knowledge with new learning and with the student's chosen field of study. And finally, go beyond just checking the boxes. So it's important to reply to student responses, address students by name, acknowledge their efforts, and encourage them to come to you with questions. Next slide. Additional strategies for promoting a community of inquiry may include the following: sharing relevant resources, things that might be useful to the development of scholarly skills of thinking and writing, providing tips, so sharing tips and tricks to assist students in meeting different course expectations or completing specific assignments, drawing connections, pointing out how different course concepts might relate to things that they see in the real world, practical events, practical applications, world events, and that sort of thing. And finally, tying up loose ends, recapping, clarifying misconceptions, and building on progress in the course. Next slide, please. On this slide, you can see many of the aforementioned strategies demonstrated, such as the sharing of resources, pointing students to helpful guides in a library or writing center, real-world applications, drawing a connection to course content and a news story that might be in the news on a given day, and also scaffolding upon existing learning, pointing out how the new material that students are covering is building on information that they may have covered in previous weeks. Next slide.
So what about teaching presence? Teaching presence entails the design of courses, the use and inclusion of resources, and the provision of clear expectations. This can occur before or after the instruction has begun. The design and development of a course syllabus and how we design expectations and guidance is very important in the classroom. Are they clear and really focused on development? In terms of facilitation, we really need to provide helpful and effective resources and clear guidance. Do we as instructors use and promote course resources and course tools? Do we use the rubrics? Direct instruction includes clear expectations and the design of activities that support learning objectives. Do we model what we wish to see in the classroom? Do we model proper formatting? Do we grade on time? Do we provide helpful feedback to our students? And do we use the course text and relevant research and library resources? Let's really, as instructors, be cognizant of these elements when designing and teaching future courses. Additional expectations. If we have expectations of students, it's really important to state these clearly and model these ourselves. Reinforcement is also key. Let your students know what they have done correctly and where improvement was noticed, as well as the areas that require further improvement. You can do this really nicely via grading feedback and direct emails or notes to students. For example, you can state, Ashley, you did a wonderful job replying to 2 peers and addressing the guided response prompt. Keep it up. Or, I noticed that you made some progress with your formatting throughout this course, but take another look at the formatting requirements for citing and referencing web-based scholarly sources. And with this, with such announcements and making sure our expectations are clear, we really need to keep in mind that some comments are very general when we provide feedback. So while they make perfect sense to us, they may not be specific enough for our students. So be sure to let your students know what specific areas they need to improve on, why points were deducted, and so on. And please use examples and resources to support your feedback. If you want success, let our students know via announcements and other resources such as the guidance, what other resources are available to them in the classroom. A lot of our students really are not aware of specifics such as, thesis guides or how to develop a thesis statement or how to correctly cite, quote, reference, what exactly academic integrity is. So be sure to provide links if possible and specific names to the resources that your students should look up. In this announcement or in this feedback, the student did a really nice job of addressing the prompt, addressing her peers, using the guided response, but the student did not use scholarly sources to back up her work. So in this case, the instructor provided a specific link for the student on how she can use research to really support her discussion participation and to really dig deeper. Are you citing your sources? As instructors, it's really easy to say, what students should do, but really, like I said earlier, are we leading by example? So when you post to your students in the discussion forum, use sources as well. Use your course text, use other scholarly sources such as articles from the Writing Center or credible websites, whatever is fitting, and to further hone scholarly research skills, but also to really connect the real world to the discussion forum. Let your students know, let them expand their knowledge and really dig deeper. And so by asking questions or by sharing research with your students, you can nicely do that. And again, as instructors, our formatting should meet APA 6th edition formatting style. Every once in a while, when I go into instructors' classrooms and look at them, I do see some errors. And while it seems a little nitpicky, it is important that we as instructors model proper formatting as well and those research skills that we expect from our students. In this assignment or in this feedback, the instructor nicely used the rubric along with specific comments and pointed out really what was done well, some opportunities for improvement, and ended nicely with that, sandwich method. Please reach out to me. I'm here to help. Here are some links that you can use to further hone your skills. And again, just be sure that your feedback matches the rubric criteria that you were using. Why do we do it? We spoke about drop in retention rates earlier of this presentation, and it's critical to our university. But in addition, positive results by me being more present can be witnessed in commitment in terms of student success and satisfaction, but also engagement between students and between students and between students and an instructor within the classroom. These can be definitely improved with improved instructor presence. So feelings of belongings to the program, the college, the university, and the community, as well as Ashford, can be enhanced as well. We will cover some more positive experiences next.
Thank you, Sandra. So just based on our experience, what we have had so far within our classrooms, we are receiving a lot of wonderful feedback from our students about our increased engagement. So here are a few comments that you can read regarding what students are saying.
Developing presence in the classroom also improves the experience of the instructor. It's really rewarding to watch students reap the benefits of enhanced interaction. And not only do instructors benefit by feelings of pride and even inspiration in their students' successes, but also their own workload shifts as students begin to implement strategies that result in better and more interesting work. Engaging with students at a higher level is more stimulating and enjoyable from the perspective of the instructor.
So thank you, everyone. So to sum it all up, basically there are three areas that we all want to focus on, and that is teaching presence, which has to do with creating the requirements of us being in the classroom, but also modeling. Are we grading on time? Are we adding citations? Are we modeling what we want for students? That's teaching. Are we designing courses appropriately? If you're someone that perhaps is a part-time employee, part-time faculty member, reach out to your program chairs, reach out to leads when you see places in the design of a course that perhaps could be improved in your eyes. Next would be, of course, the social presence. How are you creating trust in the classroom? Do they know that you're a real person and that you're there to help them succeed? Are you their cheerleader, but also holding them accountable to advancing their own skills? And then lastly, once we get all of that working appropriately, cognitive is getting them to be willing to make mistakes, being willing to think deeper, being willing to ask those questions. And so we highly encourage everyone here to try to apply these type of strategies. We'd love to hear from you, but we'd also right now in these last moments of our presentation like to hear from you. We do know that there are some College of Health in the room, and if any of you have examples of what maybe perhaps has changed in your classrooms, once you've started applying these more purposefully, we'd love to hear from you in the chat. If you're someone that's not really heard these three different dimensions, we'd love to hear from you. If perhaps we gave you an idea and we can have a quick discussion over those. So we'll kind of monitor the chat here for a minute, or if you have questions. While we're typing, what I can add too is something this past week that we'd seen in our own program, in the Bachelor of Psychology program, is we're actually seeing more students sharing their own videos about where they're from, thanking one another by name. You know, thanks so much, Tony. I really appreciate it. You know, your peer Jack, whatever. But we're seeing that happen through the modeling that we're having. We're seeing some improved writing. As a course goes along, when we have a faculty member that is actually modeling that behavior that they want, citing. So any questions? We have about 5 more minutes. Would my colleagues like to add anything to that? If not, we can go to the next slide. We'll give you our references and our contact information. Please reach out if you have any questions. If you're interested in creating something like this for your own school, for your own programs, for your own colleges, about how to support your own faculty in building these skills in the classroom, we highly, highly recommend it. And we hope to you within the next year to have some even more solid and foundational results to share with all of you. And really appreciate your time. Maureen says, just a comment to reinforce what you have said. I try to be at the last voice in the discussion board forums the students know I'm paying attention to. I agree, Maureen. Even after that week's over, I'll go back in and make sure that all those Monday night posts I've tried to respond to, especially those responding to me. Okay, any other questions? Again, please reach out. Our emails are there. We can be happy to connect one-on-one, and we appreciate everyone attending. Good, Valerie. It is so important that they know you're there.
Maybe for the last few minutes, others could share some different ideas, things that they do in their courses to enhance presence that maybe we didn't cover.
I'd even love to know if you think this will work. If this is new to you, do you think it would work? It's a yes or no question, so that's an easy one.
And if anybody wants to unmute and just talk, that's welcome too. I think you all have the ability to unmute yourself and just speak freely. So if you prefer speaking over chatting, then that's fine.
And we have a yes. Yay!
This is Jeff. I'll just throw out a comment. When you're talking about engagement, one of the things that I do in my EXP 105 course, it's just getting the students more comfortable to the classroom and engaging them that way, is that I will actually post an article about something that's happening in the news right then that relates to what we're talking about in the classroom. So we talked about soft skills and how to develop those in EXP. And I posted an article about how you can display soft skills in a job interview. And so it prompted a conversation. And so I try to relate that to what we're talking about in the classroom, relating it to outside the classroom so they can begin to apply it and see that connection. And it begins to foster more communication and open dialogue in the classroom.
And Jeff, just a quick question. Do you post that in the announcement section, or how do you facilitate that posting and the discussion?
I post it in the announcements and make it available to comment by the users and to post likes and things like that. So it becomes a dialogue there in the announcements.
That's a great idea. Yes. Good.
Jeff, I'd also have a question. Have you seen more engagement from those students when you do that? I mean, do they start to open up more in ladder prompts to you?
Yes, it's still, there's some students that are more shy, obviously, or less engaged themselves. But to the ones that are seeking that engagement, it really opens the doors to them and lets them bloom into what kind of student they hope to be. So it really opens the door to many of them. And it's not going to hit every student, obviously, because they may not feel comfortable in that area. But it gives those students who seek those opportunities an avenue for it.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Any other suggestions from any of our audience before they cut us off? Well, I know from the perspective of my colleagues, we would just want to thank everyone for coming. Again, we encourage you to connect with us offline if you would like to learn more. If you're a part of our university in the College of Health, we know some of you are still taking those modules. Please reach out, let us know how you're liking them. And we just hope everyone has a great day and a rest of the TLC conference.
And thank you so much, Dr. Sandra Rebeor, Dr. Michelle Rosser-Majors, Dr. Christine McMahon, and Dr. Stephanie Anderson for your presentation, and for all of you joining in this session today. Enjoy the rest of TLC.